Well, hey guys, welcome to my channel, welcome to my stream, and welcome to another chapter working on this guy right there. That is our 1967 Shelby GT350 AMT model kit, 125 scale. We'll run the intro and we'll get right to it, shall we? Okay guys, we're back, and yeah, I've been working on the chassis, doing some stuff here, bunch of stuff with the rear end. I got the exhaust pipes painted aluminum. I painted the exhaust manifolds on the engine, got them a nice kind of rusty cast iron color, even though realistically somebody drops a 427 in one of these things, they're not going to be using some headers, not cast iron exhaust manifolds. But I don't have headers, and I'm not about to try and fabricate any, so that's what we got the cast iron exhaust manifolds. Anyway, I finally made a decision on exactly which tires and which wheels I'm going to be using on this, because I have a lot. I've got a big selection of tires and wheels. In fact, I've got three. I've got another set here and another set here, and I got a bunch in here. Yeah, I got lots of tires, and I've even got more coming. Most of these things I get from Iceman Collections. I do recommend them. Want that stuff? Slicks for the track or street tires? That's a good question, Yuala. The tires I have chosen are actually slicks for the track. That's these guys here. Okay, these are going to be the rear tires on this guy. Okay, these are from a different model kit, but these will work. These will do, no problem at all. If you're wondering why they're not looking shiny and new, it's because I took some sandpaper, like this stuff, and sand it down and give it a nice realistic used look. Okay, just like that. And it makes them look like they've been used. They don't look like they just pulled them off of the rack and put them on the rims. And I did a little bit of the same kind of thing, a little treatment on these guys too for our front tires. Now these tires are actually the ones that come in this Shelby kit. So these tires actually are the kit tires. Yeah, so that's them. Okay. The other thing I did use is the rear part of the wheel. Okay. The rear part of the wheel is actually in there. That's the one that comes in the kit. The front, however, is the matching rims for these guys. Okay. I see I got a little bit of schmutz when I painted the chrome on there. That shouldn't be too hard to fix up there. Scrape that away with my fingernail. There we go. Okay. Fixed. Okay. There we go. So there's the tires I'm going to be putting on. The other thing I did off camera is I did paint our front springs, our front coil springs. I painted those. These guys are going to be going in right about there. Something like that. I'm going to go in right there like that. Okay. And the other thing I did was the rear shocks. I'll just pick these up with my tweezers. The rear shock absorbers. Now these are unique. Okay. These are special. What makes these special? I'll change the camera so you can see what I did. Okay, when you look at these, that is a regular shock absorber, but what I did is I put a coil spring around it. And how I did that is I took some solder, just some regular old lead solder, okay, and I just wrapped it around and made myself coilover spring, coilover shock absorber, just like that. Because I'm doing this framework around the rear end to put 4-link suspension in it and not have the leaf springs. Okay, so in doing that, I've taken a couple of little pieces of styrene. I drilled out a little kind of half circle in them, glued them on there, trim them off, and so there's going to be the links that go on the differential for my 4-link suspension. I also then took a drill bit from my pin vise and went in there and drilled that in, made a little bit of a hole, one here and one here. Now it's not too deep, just deep enough, because for my actual rods that need to go from here, this is going to be sitting, let's put it the right way around. It's going to be sitting, oh, I had it right, or did I? That's the bottom, so that faces up. Okay, so it's going to be sitting somewhere around like that. Okay, something like this. So I need to have my 4 links. One going to here, one here, one on the bottom, going up to here and up to here. So we're going to have 4 links, 4 bars. What am I going to make the bars out of? Well, I took a paper clip. And I straightened it out. And so once I've got this located where I need it, I'm going to trim this off into 4 pieces, and then I'll have the links for my bars. And those little pre-drilled holes are going to give me a place to actually locate that in there, just like that. Okay, in our 4 spots. And I did the same here. So I have my frame. I did my little cross brace here. So I've got a hole drilled here, right against the bottom bar, in that little corner. I got a hole there, and I got a hole here. And you can see that a lot better on this one here. There's a hole there, right? And there's a hole in there. And so there's that. So I just have my one last piece of the puzzle to fit across right there. I have it already trimmed. So I just need to put this on. This is going to go right in here. Let me grab the tweezers so you can see better. This is going to go right in here like this, just like that. Okay, so like I said, I trimmed it to that kind of angle to match up on there, and then trimmed it against the back. So I just need to glue this one in, which I'm going to do right now, and get that baby in there. All of this stuff to do, just a little bit of custom work. It's nothing really too special, and so far I would say it's not anything that's really all that complicated. Just got to do a little bit of research online, see what actually is involved in a 4-link suspension setup to get that in there. Go down in your spout. There we go. Let's get that lined up there nicely. There we go. There we go. We've got our final piece tacked in there to give a nice realistic look. Now, of course, all of this, don't even really need this. I just wanted it a little bit realistic to continue our frame and everything. You know, realistically, I could have done the frame, put another piece across here and doubled up the thickness to match the thickness of this part of the frame. So I could have, but I don't think it's really necessary, just to show there actually is something done. This looks like maybe when I'm done, the hope is that it's going to look like it's supposed to be like this. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is to narrow this rear end. We've got to have these guys much closer in, okay, on each side. So this is the scary part, because see what I've got, this is all set up perfect. It's going to slide in there nice. My wheels won't be able to turn, but that doesn't really matter. That is really insignificant. But we've got to have this lined up so that the wheel is going to sit in nice and snug against there, like this. Okay. So I've got to narrow this rear end. I got to figure out where it's going to come into contact here. It's right on this first little lip. It goes up to that first lip. And I want to see, my wheel isn't quite perfect in the way it sits. This shaft actually tapers a little bit, and to look at it from my angle, I don't know if it shows on the camera or not, especially with it being black, it looks like it gets to, this axle is straight, it gets to this point, and then it's almost like it just goes, it's going along like this, and then it just goes like a boom, like that, all of a sudden, right at that edge. It's like this. So when I put the tire on there and I get it flush, the tire is kind of cockeyed a little bit, especially there. You can see that. That definitely ain't straight. So yeah, depending on how I have the tire actually positioned, it really wobbles. And yeah, anyway, so let me see where on the axle. So it goes that far, and we're going to do this. So it is just on this side is where that trims. So if I trim that right there, this bracket, right here, this bracket here, this first bracket, let me get this out of the way here for a second. So you can see if I trim it at this first bracket, that should be great. So use this bracket as my point to where the tire is going to go in. Okay. To trim this piece off here. Okay. Let's grab. I could just grab this and snip like this. Why not? Doesn't really matter. I know I'm flush up against that, but I want to do this one. Okay, I'm going to do that one. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm just going to make sure we're flat for when we go against. Okay, so there's one. I'll do that with this side too. This is always a scary bit because, you know, this is pretty much, this is the only rear end you got. And you want to make sure you don't trim it off in a weird way or at a funny angle, or you trim it off too much. See, that could go in like that, doink, and just sit like that. That's fine. So we've got both of these done now. Okay. Now, where do we trim this back? We know that the tire, if I put this in here, that's almost right, perfect, right? Which means when this sits flush against that, that's sitting like that. Okay, right on that side of the frame. See that there, right where I'm pointing with my finger? It's just covering the frame. Let's just do a check and make sure we got the same thing going on this side. And it's actually only covering the frame about halfway. Make sure that's pushed out of the way. This is covering the frame completely. That tells me I don't have these trimmed the same. Good catch. This one's actually trimmed on an angle. They're both pretty much the same. Let's do a little measurement here. Put that on that line. This on the line also. These are the same. But they definitely aren't straight. So when I trimmed them, I did not trim them straight, so I gotta fix this. I definitely want them straight. And both of them have the same problem. Okay, let's put these back in. And we're just going to check. You see, maybe one is definitely left-sided and one's right. And that pretty much covers the frame. This one only covers half. So this one, for whatever reason, this one, even though it looks the same, it doesn't. I'm going to try swapping them out. Covers the frame. and only covers half. Okay, so even though these look the same, this one doesn't sit in as deep. Okay, it doesn't sit in the channel as deep for some reason. Well, they actually do. They're both bottoming out, but one just sits further out. Okay, so I'm gonna have to keep that in mind. Now, where do I have to trim this? I want to have this pretty much centered, even though the drive shaft is gonna, I gotta have it sitting over a little bit if I want to have the drive shaft straight. If I want the drive shaft going straight down here like this, then I have to have the differential offset a little bit so that, you know, in theory, one axle's longer than the other. And that's all right. We can do that. So I want to have a straight drive shaft. Let's just move this a little bit more. So we got it in the middle. And I'm going to take my Sharpie and I'm going to mark it. Okay. So I might get my head in the way here, but I'm going to put this one, draw a line right here. Let's hold this steady, like this, and I'm going to mark at the edge of the axle, the edge of the frame, this edge here, and I'm going to do the same right here. Okay. Now this time, now it's probably hard for you to see it on the camera, but I've got my two marks there. I'm going to put this over here, and I'm going to grab my little hacksaw. Now I'm just going to go straight like this, kind of go around. Just draw it back. Going light and letting the saw do what it does. Just kind of go around. And just make sure. There we go. Okay, so that means I can now I got a really good guide for my nips. It's going to be straight, just like that. Okay, even though it didn't cut straight, that's okay. And I know for a fact that it's going to be too wide. And I did that on purpose because it gives me room to adjust it. It's a lot better than cutting it too short. You know what I mean? Okay. So that's this side done, right? So then we have this one. Got my line right there. Let's do this one. You know, to be honest, I was not planning on cutting my differential on this particular video. I was planning more on getting some painting done on the interior floor pan and maybe on the bottom, getting some of the flat black done. But painting a diff is, or cutting a diff works, I guess. Okay, there we go. We've got our scribe all the way around so that I know when I put my nipper on there, I'm where I need it. Okay, and I'm not throwing this away just in case I do have to do adjustments. So, now that's done. I'm just going to hold on to this guy here. We've got that guy there. Now he's basically just as wide as this is, right? But we already know that if I put this wheel on this side, I'm going to have to shave down half of the width of the frame, which actually means I'm going to have to trim this a little more, and I'm going to do that with this, about that much. This is my file. Get that done as straight as possible. That's about as visually close to 90 degrees as I can see it. Okay. That's going to sit like that. Just like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this on. Get this now put on here in our nice little way. I'm going to put it so this little lip is down, facing down, or I guess technically it's up, but yeah. Now if you wanted to add a little strength to it, you could take a pin, because this is hollow, you could put a pin in there, drill a hole in this, in the center, and then you'd have a little bit of extra strength, but I don't think I'm going to need to resort to that. Let's put this guy on there. His new home. Press him on and he should be good. Just like that. Okay. Now with that, I need to let this sit. Before I actually put the tire on, I gotta let that sit a little bit. But I know that was sitting right about there. Right? It's about halfway across, which means this one is actually, he sits about there. I have got a lot that I need to take off of this one, and I think I got to take this much off right there. I'm just going to double check. You know, what do they say? Measure twice, cut once? Yeah, this one is almost all the way to the end of that frame. You can see in the... get this up there for you guys to see. You can see when we get there 90 degrees, it's almost covering the frame, but not quite. Right? It's close. So I can conservatively, I put my black line on there right at the frame, but I can conservatively give it a little extra room. Something like this. Trim that just like that. So let's just do this. With that pushed in there. We drop him in. We've got just about enough frame showing. Okay, just make sure I didn't inadvertently move that. Let's see how this works. Put that in there. Okay. Do a little test. He's in there. Push you in. We're just about perfect. That is just, I don't think I can get that any more perfect. I think we're done as far as trimming and stuff like that. So, we can glue this one in. I'm going to do the same thing. Put that lip down facing towards the chassis. Glue on there. And bingo. Let's make sure we're straight and level. And that about does it. Just like that. So we've got our funny looking axles that are one axle is much longer than the other, but that's okay. That's our narrowed rear end, guys. And he's going to go in right there like that. Okay. So with that done, we can work on our actual 4 links. Okay. I'm going to take a drink of water here. Now the 4 links and everything is actually going to depend on how, I want to see how long is our drive shaft and how that's going to match up. So I got to find our drive shaft out of the kit. Okay. Let's find our drive shaft. Where are you, drive shaft? There you are. Drive shaft right here. Let's get this guy off of there. Now we're going to see just how long we have. So we already know drive shaft has to go into the end of the transmission like so. Okay. And we know exactly where our engine has to mount, right? It has to mount with the sump of the oil pan going in between our steering mechanism and our front tie rod or anti-sway bar. So we can just do that, kind of mock that up, put our drive shaft in, drop that down there, and we can put that into our rear end. And now we know exactly where our rear end is going to sit, and whether or not I've got the notches cut out good enough to actually fit these tires. And it's looking pretty good. It looks fairly good, but let's just see. Let's put a tire on there. Tire on here. Okay, so there's our tires. Oops. So you see what I just did? I bent it. So this is the kind of thing where you really should let the glue cure and let that cure properly before you wind up doing too much, you know? But I like to live a little dangerously, even if I wind up having to glue things back again later on. Okay, so there's our tires. And we're going to see how much or how little playroom we have with this drive shaft. So where these tires, where I have the tires notched, is I'm going to have to do some trimming on the fuel tank, just to get these tires in there like this. Where'd my drive shaft go? I don't think I've got the room Put our drive shaft. Get in the hole there. There. Yeah, see? Oops, get back in there. If I do this, my drive shaft is about 1.5 millimeters too long. And that's with the tires right there. As far back as I can put them. It's just that hair too long. And I mean, that's okay, but I'm gonna have to trim this back about 1 millimeter on each side to get the tires to actually fit. Because I could do this and try and get that drive shaft lined up. So, and the tires don't want to fit. So, that's what I need to do. Well, that's a choice I can make. I could trim this back, and actually I think the drive shaft is supposed to go this way. It's not actually going all the way in here. This is too tight. Oh no, it's not too tight. It doesn't go quite all the way in. Why doesn't it go all the way? Depending on what angle you have the drive shaft, depends on how it sits. And I could probably get away with just trimming the U-joint a little bit here and give myself, you know, 0.5 millimeter here and maybe 0.5 millimeter on the transmission, and actually get it to go in further. That might actually work. Let's get our engine out of here. I'd clean up the end of the tranny here. Might be able to give myself, see, that sits nice and flush now. And against the diff or the rear end. There we go. I think I may have solved my problem. I may have solved the problem. Perfect. It is perfect. I have a perfect fit. My tires are right at the very edge there, but that is perfect. I got plenty of room up front, but that doesn't really matter. My tires aren't going to spin anyway, so it doesn't really matter that they sit that far back. But that'll be perfect. The only thing that might not be perfect is how they sit in the actual wheel well of the actual car, which is going to be a challenge. Whoops! It's going to be a challenge to get them in here anyway, because if I do this and put that in, you know, how do I get the tires in there now? right? The tires have to be on the frame when I put it in the chassis. When I put the chassis into the body. So that's going to be a challenge like that. Even just getting them in there. Is a challenge in and of itself. They're in there. How about that? Does that look good? They're all bent and out of shape. Yeah, let's not do that, eh? We don't want to stress out our poor little axle ends here until that's cured 100%. So we're going to worry about that later. Okay. The thing we got to do now is see the length of our 4 links that we're putting in here. So that's where that's going to sit. It's just like that. So you're going to take this and we're going to measure one. Okay, we're going to stick this in the diff, in that little hole that I've measured, or that I pre-drilled, which is right. So it'll go in. Where's that hole? Hard to see. There we go. I actually have the diff upside down right now. So let's go like this. So there's one. Okay. Put that in there. Okay. Put my upper link right in there. And it's going to go right there. It's going to help suspend the diff in the air. So we're going to do one pre-cut. Right about there. Just going to make sure. Yep. Okay. Cut this one right there. All right. So put it in this hole up here and line it up with that one if I can get there. It's going to sit basically like that. Okay, so that's that one. Let's do the other side. Again, lining up in this hole. Kind of lay it down in there. Right there. And there. Oh, I think it jumped on me. Let's try this again. There. Okay. And cut. There we go. Test fit. The nice thing about this is it's only paper clips, so if I cut one too short by mistake, or it's not a big deal. and I'm going to be using CA glue to put these in anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Once they're in, they're just going to stay in forever. All I want to do is just line them up in the holes and see what happens. Pressing hard on the end of the axle, and look what I did to the axle right there. See what I did? That's an oops, and now that's got to be re-drilled. But for now, I'm going to take this off. I'm just going to take that off of there because I'm going to wait till I'm done measuring all this, and then I will glue it on, and then I can set it down and just leave it. Okay, now that I've got the most important cuts done. Now, the challenging part is going to be the lower ones, because I've got to go in underneath the bottom of it. But they're probably going to be the same. Let's just try this side here. Since this side's facing me, I'm going to tilt this up a little bit here. Let's do this. Now let's use one of our slices. Get a nice angle at it. The engine is cooperating and staying where it's supposed to be. Let's put this back in its home. Oh, maybe the engine's not cooperating. There we go. Now, ideally, I could line this up with the hole that I have in there, like so. And I mean, if I drilled the hole all the way through, then I could just put the rod in and have it held there. But I did not do that. It's just drilled in a little bit. So I want to keep pressure on it and keep it held in there. Put this drive shaft. Get in your hole. Ah, it fell out. This is why customizing things takes patience. And having a steady hand of a surgeon helps too. Like A4 Garage. I really envy his tenacity and steady-handedness of all the things that he fabricates in his builds. It's really, really amazing. I'm trying to get this one in here. Okay. I know that I need roughly this much. So I'm going to trim this one here. Just so that I can get it in there the angle that it needs to be before I cut it down. Okay. I'm pretty sure okay, come on. Work with me here. Get in your hole. There. Okay. Half of that is what I need. Okay. Trim off just that much, I think. Okay, I'm going to do a little experiment and see, are these two the same? These are the same, almost the same length. I'm going to cut the second one the same length as this. Okay, let's just do this, and then put that one there too. And then well, I wound up cutting it shorter, but whatever. Okay, CA glue. CA glue. Actually, this stuff is so thick, you just get it to run out. There we go. It's so thick right now. Okay, I'm going to dip this in the end. I really should be using my other tweezers because these just aren't strong. They don't grip very hard at all. Okay, CA glue on the end of that. Let's put this in the hole. Just like that. All right. Shove that in the engine, and we're going to shove that in the hole down at the bottom. There. Okay. Now, grab the other bottom one. That glue to flow out again. Dip that in there. I have to kind of let the glue set just for a second. And then guide these into their spots. This guy goes right into that corner there, and you go right into your corner there. And there we go. Got a crooked rear end, but it's okay because we can play around with it. Except that fell out of the hole, and that's not good. The one rod really doesn't seem to be lining up very well. I almost like I don't have it, the hole drilled properly. I'm just going to double check my hole. Yeah, it's there. The hole is drilled. I think that's where it's going to sit. It's just like that. Okay, let's get our engine out of there before it falls out. It's going to sit like that, guys. Obviously, I got to put the other two rods in. But those are simple because they're up top there, and that's a lot easier to do, right? And I've got a little bit of play. I can play around with it and the angles and stuff like that, and how it's supposed to sit. Yeah. Let's try one rod in here before I leave it for the night. Okay, get some glue on there. In that hole. Just like that. Nice. That went in nicely. And our fourth rod, aka fourth link, going in there. Line up with your hole. This one doesn't want to go in his hole. Seems to be too good for his hole. So he's going to sit like that until the glue sets. Just like that. Okay. That's where I'm going to leave it for tonight, guys. Yeah, as you can see, this stuff takes time and patience and can be a little difficult, especially if you're doing it for the first time. Like me, this is the first time I've ever done this. So, yeah. And I think realistically, in real life, this wouldn't quite be set up quite like that, with one arm being like 90 degrees straight out and the other being like this on an angle, so they're like this, as you can see. But that doesn't really matter, does it? It's just a model, and the fact that I'm doing this at all and not just gluing the diff down against the bottom of the chassis, that says everything right there, right? Put in the effort. Just do that. Train. Try something different. That's what I'm doing. And you can do it too. If I can do it, you can do it. I mean, what are my special tools that I've used? Nippers, paper clip, a little bit of styrene stuff. This stuff costs $5 that you can buy at the hobby store yourself. It's not hard. You can do it. I know you guys can do it because I can do it. And if I can do it, yeah, you can do it too. So try it. Check it out, you know. Just give it a shot. And while you're trying that out and you're looking at stuff online, hit that like button down below. And also over here in the corner, hit that subscribe button too, because that would be really awesome for me. And I'd really appreciate that, guys. I want to thank you for watching. Thanks for joining me today. And we'll see you all in the next one.